So I have no idea if this is the AM or the PM course. It was definitely pretty gnarly. There's a good line through here. So you go kind of up there and then you come down between those two pieces of orange fence and go up. It's actually really sweet. There's a decent amount of grip and there's a kind of a line through here, but it's going to be, at least for me, it's going to be some bike pushing for sure. So here's another one of those AM PM splits. So there's a climb. It's already kind of gnarly and loose. So that's the AM line. The PM line is down in this creek. So you go ride through the entire creek and then you go up here or up here. There's an arrow. And the camera doesn't do justice just how steep that is. That is probably about 10 feet. Of probably almost vertical, or you can take a slightly easier line and side hill, then go up and around and some more. Pardon the sound of the rain here. So most of the AM race is pretty straightforward, but there are a couple tricky climbs. This again doesn't look too bad on camera, but it's actually pretty steep and pretty big rocks. Each one of those rocks is probably size of a dirt bike wheel or so. So it'll be tricky. There's probably going to be some people stuck up here. Good thing there's a bunch of different lines. How cool is this? This place is really cool. So just to give you guys an idea of one of the PM sections. So you got to go up here. You can either pop your wheel up or your bike up onto these rocks here or over here. This is probably 1.5 feet at least. Not really a whole lot of run up. And so you get up here and you're kind of on this ledge and you don't want to fall down in here because this is just a bunch of brush and like sediment. And you definitely don't want to fall down in there. It's about 2 foot deep hole. You can't really go around this way. So you somehow got to ride over this rock, not fall down, and then ride out. So this is super fun. It's a hailstorm. Pretty huge chunks of hail falling down. Good thing I'm not in the woods right now walking the course. All right, so it's race day. It's about an hour away from the start of the race. I'm getting my costume on, as my buddy Ryan likes to say. Everybody is getting their stuff ready to go. And yeah, well, the AM race is done. Made it a couple laps. Did some good passes. It's gnarly. Had a couple of crashes, nothing too serious. So we'll see. I think I was 9th in C class, which is not great, but there's a lot of people in C class. So we'll see if I made it into the top 50. I'm gonna tabulate the results. I'm not super excited to go back out there, to be honest. It is tiring, but we'll see. Bike seems to be in pretty good shape. Probably check a few things. Were a couple decent hits, but nothing too crazy. There were mostly just tricky bits where you can get stuck. So I had some time to think about the Jarvis race this weekend and think about and kind of process it all. Overall, it was a great event. I rode better, I think, than I thought I would, and also about the same. The class I was running C class. I'm a C class rider. Was huge. There were a total of 120, I think, people, and almost 40 of those, so almost a third of the field was C class. On the starting line, we literally filled, it was a hair scramble start. We filled the entire line, and I made the mistake of being one of the last ones there, and I actually had to stretch the ribbon a little bit to fit my bike at the very, very end of the line. So I was literally the furthest bike away from the first corner, which did not set me up super well for the start. I think I made it probably, I didn't have a terrible start. I was somewhere in the middle of the field, going into the woods, which in a hair scramble, that sets you up for the rest of the race. And especially here with all the bottlenecks, it definitely set me up for the rest of the race. I made a couple passes in the first mile or so before we got to the first harder section. So the AM loop, the way that it was set up, the AM race, you had to make 2 laps. You had an hour to make the first, or an hour 15 minutes to make the first one, and an hour to make the second lap. If you didn't make the first lap in the time frame, you were done. You weren't doing the second lap. And then if you didn't make the second lap before the cutoff, your second lap would not be scored. So I made both laps well under time, so I was very happy about that. But back to the start of the race. So I went into the race, into the woods mid-pack, made a couple passes in the first mile. There were a couple alternate lines, and honestly, everybody was going so slow because of the traffic. I was able to get around a couple people. Who made mistakes. And then in the first technical section, it was really bottlenecked. I got around 1 or 2 people on the hill climb, and then there was a rock garden. And then I got around a couple people there, but then picked a bad line that it ended in a probably 4-foot ledge. So I couldn't ride my bike off of it. I had to essentially kind of stop and drop the bike in there, which cost me a position or 2 maybe. Then we got to the second bottleneck, which was the biggest bottleneck of the whole AM lap. It was this rocky climb, tons of people stuck on it. So I took an alternate line along with a bunch of other people. There were a bunch of people waiting, which in a hard enduro you don't wait. You can if there's only a few people, but if it's a long climb with a whole bunch of people stuck on it, you gotta jam right up in there, because if you don't, then somebody else will, and they're going to get in front of you. You're never going to get a clean run at the whole thing. So it's just the way it is. So I took an alternate line to kind of jam into there from the side, along with a couple other people, and I actually got around a whole bunch of people that way, and then I rode in the woods most of the rest of the lap by myself. There were a couple other people that I passed. I got passed by a couple people, but overall it really thinned out after that. On the second lap, that rocky climb, that was the only thing that was bottlenecked, and it wasn't too bad. So a couple things that I think, so I ended up 9th in class, and 61st overall, so I didn't make the PM race, which I was honestly kind of happy about. My lower back started killing me a little bit, and I was pretty happy to be done, but then as I rested a little bit, and I got a little bit of FOMO, thinking that, oh man, it would have been awesome to go try some of this stuff. But it was really cool to watch. It was almost every major technical area was within easy walking distance. So I spent a couple hours walking around there, looking at people stuck on rocks. It was really fun. So it was a good experience. I think the 3 takeaways that I have from there is to make sure I get to the starting line early so I get a good spot. I haven't done a hair scramble in forever, so I kind of forgot about that element. And I should have walked the hard and easy splits. I walked a bunch of the course, but I didn't walk that, and apparently the hard option wasn't very hard. There were a couple of people that got around me just based on that, and the easy option was a lot longer. So I think, and I should have drank more water the day before. Like I said, my back was starting to bother me. that usually means I'm dehydrated. I start getting some spasms. Yeah, overall I did pretty well. I think I had the speed to move up to probably 5th or 6th because we were all kind of within 1 minute. And if I gotten a slightly better start, and also if I would have taken the hard lines, the hard lines were, people are saying, up to 4 minutes shorter in some cases, so which is huge. I mean, just taking the hard lines would have probably moved me up into the top 5. I took one of the hard lines on one of the laps, and it was definitely it wasn't difficult at all. There were a couple small ledges, and that's it. So just a good learning experience. Bike's in one piece, I'm in one piece, so that's always a bonus, and we're ready for Battle of Goats this coming weekend.